Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some very conflicting news to go and report on. Now, as you guys may or not have been seeing, we've been seeing like a really big community push and kind of community outrage on just the fact that the ratio of basically goodwill versus badwill on Sony is very much in favor of the bad will. Now, we have some pretty disappointing news too when it comes to now like the transparency of moving from one PlayStation to another PlayStation VR set, and just I think a lot of folks are going to start complaining about this, mainly because it's kind of coming out as of today. And this is kind of my big complaint on it too, because what on earth is Sony doing? Now, we can kind of explain about like a little bit more on the in-depth side, because there is at least a technological reason for it. But as we're looking through this, it just kind of feels like we have so much bad will these past few weeks when it comes to PlayStation. We're seeing a lot of really negative comments. We're seeing a lot of really negative community sentiment. And just at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of folks are kind of just defining a lot of this basically PlayStation stuff of, yeah, they have good games. And that's about it. Like, it's kind of getting to the point where it's almost a little bit too much. So it's kind of bad news to go talk about. We're going to discuss this on over here. We have some quotes, too, as well to discuss. And, well, let's talk about it. As well, if any of you guys are brand new, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. We have the Amazon links down below, Target links down below. And like I said, if you guys want to put the notifications, feel free to give your thoughts and comments down below. So, as you guys know, we currently have a proper PlayStation VR right now, mainly more so related to the PS4. And they have had a lot of games in development. There's been a pretty wide list of games out there. And as you guys also know, there's been a PlayStation VR 2 that has now been officially announced. We know the specs, we know the internals, and as of the most recent state of play, we've also seen quite a few different games coming out for it in the near future. And as you guys know, buying a gaming console, buying a game on PC, PlayStation, PSVR, or whatever, you typically want to be able to go play the game. If you spend the money, you want to be able to go play it for, ideally, a long time. Which is why usually like cross-generation and prior generation basically development is a big thing to note, so you can play your Xbox, games on your Xbox One, or Xbox X, or Xbox S. Or same thing too with the PlayStation. You have your PS3, PS4, PS5 games. You want to make sure you can basically play them all on every console. But this is a very disappointing note to see. So basically today, PlayStation had an official, basically podcast. So this is the official PlayStation podcast, episode 439 with the virtual impression. So this is also basically them having a big interview and discussing about the platform experience too as well, and mainly and notably PlayStation VR 2. So we have a very, this is going to be a little bit of a quieter quote too, but we actually have a quote over here that is now confirming that the official PlayStation VR 2, so the brand new headset that's coming out in the near future, is not going to be compatible with the games that were made and developed for PlayStation VR 1. You heard me correctly. It's a little bit sad on this one. So I'm going to give you guys the quote over here. It's a 44-second quote.
Okay, and while I have you here, I've been getting some questions from some friends and some gamers just about whether or not they might be able to play original PlayStation VR games on PlayStation VR 2. So what say you?
PSVR games are not compatible with PSVR 2 because PSVR 2 is designed to deliver a truly next-generation VR experience. PSVR 2 has much more advanced features like all-new controller with haptics feedback and adaptive triggers, as I said, and inside-out tracking, eye tracking in it, 3D audio is coming together, 4K HDR, of course. So this means developing games for PSVR 2 requires a whole different approach than the original PSVR.
Okay, and while I have you here...
See, I just wish that was a little bit louder, though. I feel like it was such a quiet little snippet over there. But basically what they're saying is that you will not be able to play prior PSVR games, if you guys bought the original PSVR, and you will not be able to go play them on the PSVR 2. Now, to put two distinctions to kind of one good, one bad. One good thing is that it could, in theory, also be ported over. I'm sure if you have a VR system, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of similarities, and you may just be able to go and obviously still take some time, development power, money, etc. And you also have to fine-tune it, quality sure, etc., etc. But you may also still, they might be able to go port the games over. Now, we've seen that kind of happen a little bit, but we've also had a lot of issues with the PS3, where even their architecture is really hard to remake and even really hard to transfer over to next gen. So it depends on what Sony is like. We don't know these internals. I mean, maybe someone smarter out there does, but as of this second, we don't know the exact frameworks and exact specifics. And I know VR is a bit on the newer side, so it's even harder for me to even understand if it'd be that easy or that hard to do. I'm sure it's possible, but I'm sure it's very hard. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's a little bit easier because it's all on the Sony system. But as you guys even heard him mention, there is also new features. So that comes into things like the adaptive feedback. You have a different controller as well, and I'm sure VR plays into that a lot. Different headset, different FOV. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of big major changes you'd have to do for a game. Thankfully, though, it may not be as big. Like, it may not be like a 3, 4, 5 year period to transfer a game over. But like, even if they can, and I'm not sure how good the likelihood is, that could still be like a 3 to 6 month process bare minimum. And I'm sure a lot of folks are also on like the, well, is it worth what money for it? Let's see what like maybe Capcom does first. Let's see what Sony does first to see how many sales there are and stuff like that. But I guess like on the more positive note too, I would say that's a huge negative. Like, I'm not gonna deny it. I'm not gonna skate around it. I think anyone who bought a game and invested in like brand new technology like PSVR1, man, that should be like a big thing for Sony to try their best to make it so they can play their games, or at least they can carry over or do something. Like, that's basically someone who bought like the first, like maybe say iPhone, and then it completely changes to iPhone 3, and they're like, you should probably at least do something, like make sure the apps can carry over, do something of the bare minimum. But it is pretty disappointing. On the one bright side, though, as I mentioned, there is at least going to be new tech with it. So they're trying to push on at least in the full-on new-gen experience, which I will be honest is nice. I do like the idea of a proper new-gen experience. That is nice. It's been something I've been waiting for because we're still pushing the PS4. But the thing is, I don't want someone who had games on a prior PSVR to have less options, have to spend more money, and as well, having a worse experience off of it. Like, I really wish that Sony themselves would be like, hey, we'll give you guys a grant if you guys made a game from the first game to move your games over. Because I always think that's one big issue with VR, is there just isn't a really big player base, and there also isn't a really big, like, I guess, new developments of games. And a lot of VR games are also kind of somewhat slacking. And not many AAA, like proper pure AAA games. Like, you don't usually have like Call of Duty or like Battlefield or stuff like God of War, in VR. But you might have some cool games like Beat Saber, maybe some like, RPGs, etc., which kind of fit a little bit more. But still, like, you need options. If you want to go and spend $300, $400, $500, we don't even know the price yet on a headset, you want to have like features, you want to have games, you want to have like actually something that you could utilize and enjoy. Because are you going to go and buy a proper $500 object and you only spend 10 hours on it? No, that's like a $50 per hour cost. I don't think a lot of folks would do that. I mean, maybe if you're rich, sure, but I think a lot of normal consumers would not go and do that. And as well, as I mentioned, this was a lot of really bad, just vibes. Because even right now, like, there's a lot of really good news coming out even today, where the new VR tech is making a great first impression. And a lot of folks are saying, like, a lot of people are saying this is good. A lot of folks are comparing this to the very first PSVR, saying it was affordable, was well received, and everything else too as well. And a lot of outlets had a chance to get their first time in sessions too as well for the PSVR2. So it doesn't have like the price and all that, but a lot of places have been saying it's very good. Like, overall, critics sound impressed, even wowed by the experience. But the thing is, all this community, like, you need to make sure the community is happy. And seeing these non-stop issues and non-stop mentions where it's like, hey, you're not going to be able to go play old games you already bought. Hey, there's going to be issues with $70 games too as well. Hey, there's issues with us with Xbox too. And like, you have all these negative overall world vibes. It's not good. Like, it doesn't kind of instill a lot of confidence in this. But at least on like that kind of end more on a positive note, because I'm still intrigued on the PSVR 2, although this makes me a little bit less intrigued unless they're able to port over games. But to wind down, we've seen like a lot of articles such as Polygon. Last week, I tried Sony's new headset for the first time, was caught off guard on how stunning two of its main games, Horizon and Resident Evil, looked. They didn't rely on particles or stylized art or direction. They looked like AAA games, which is what I just complained about a few moments ago. You want it to be good. The Verge saying, what does it feel like to actually play games on the PSVR 2? With all of its new bells and whistles. The actual PSVR 2 hardware was a joy to use, like many modern VR headsets. It lets you adjust that head strap to make sure you're all comfortable. Lets you go and tweak things too as well. And like a lot of a lot of lenses are good size. Eurogamer just going like, wow, 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 wow. That's the word that keeps on spinning to my mind when I try to summon my PlayStation VR 2. And like, we're seeing all of these really good, like, this is the like literally the same day article. Like, this, if this would have came out, people would have been like, okay, I got a good vibe on PSVR 2. Like, because this literally came out literally as of 2 days. I guess it was 2 days ago. But like literally the past, like, only a few hours. And people would have been like, yes, let's go. But now, sadly, too, with the official PlayStation podcast, a lot of that even goodwill and hype is sinking down even more and more and more. And I'm just not sure what Sony's doing. It's a little bit on the disappointment side, in all honesty. So give me your thoughts and comments down below, as well as make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. Amazon links down below, Target links down below, and everything else as well. Twitter and Twitch room down below. Give me your thoughts and comments as well down below.